and then I'll post this, and then we'll go back to where we left off on Thursday. Okay. So with this, we'll just go over this quick. Okay. So anytime you always have parabola written in vertex form for transformation, so it's always going to be written in the form, okay, or Q. It's just a constant on the end. It's not that big of a deal. Okay. So if I'm looking at this, I can start matching things up, right? Like I see there's a Q there, and I see there's an A value here. Okay. And I know that A represents the vertical stretch or compression, so I'll start at the left and I'll go to the right. I'm going to start on the A value and then work my way over based on what I see, right? And so I see that there's a value of 1/2, and I remember that between 0 and 1, if A is between 0 and 1, right, then it has to be a compression. So if the number is less than 1, right? So then I know that there is a vertical compression. I won't be too strict on the language for the quiz, but on the test I might be a little bit more strict with by a factor of 1/2. Okay. And then the other one is, okay, well, I've got this Q value on the end, and remember Q is the vertical translation up and down, right? So then I get a vertical, we'll call it the vertical translation up 4 units, right? So there's only 2 on that one. Okay. Do we have any like that out of control for anybody? Okay, it's just about like identifying A as being kind of vertical stretch or compression, H as being horizontal because it starts with H, left and right, and then Q is vertical stuff, right? So up and down. And then there's only one other piece, which we'll see here, okay, in this question. Okay. So I see here, I see the negative. Do you know what the negative means? Flip it, right? So it's we could say it's we'll number them. It's a vertical reflection, right? So there's 1. The next thing I see is the 3. The 3, much like, the other question here, right, where I had the 1/2, I see if A is bigger than 1, we get a stretch, right? So this time I get a vertical stretch by a factor of 3. Okay. And then the next thing, I see the H value. H stands for horizontal, left and right, right? I see, and then I also know because it's horizontal, it has to behave opposite to what I see. So I see a negative, and I might intuitively think, oh, it's going to go left. It has to behave opposite. So I'm actually going to move it to the right horizontally, right? And then the terminology that I'm going to use around that is going to be a horizontal translation right 3. Okay. And then the last one.
This is 2.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it is 2. But I stressing people out?
Yes.
Good. Okay. It's right 2. Okay. And then the last one. Q. Q is vertical, so I'm going to move things up and down. It behaves in the way that I think it does. I see it's a negative, so I'm going to move it down 2 units, right? So then I can say, just use this terminology again, vertical translation down 2. Okay, and then I'll highlight these corresponding so you can see. Okay, so next one, red. Red is horizontal. The stretch is the 2. Okay, and the blue is the reflection. Okay, so hopefully the colors make. If you go and watch this now, right, and the colors, like, you just match up the colors. There's only 4 things. Like, that's as hard as it's gonna get. Is that question, right? So you got like 4 kind of how do I word things, but then you like if we jump down here to the graphs, you've only got 4 things to do to the graph too, right? It's not gonna get any harder than that. Right, so just match up the colors and then do what it says. Okay. So that's the first part. And the second part, and I always give a mark for this, is graph the base graph. Okay. And that one is implying y equals x squared. That's what it wants to see, right? I just want to see you graph the base graph and then start transforming it based on what you see in the equation, right? So the base graph I always know 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4, right? And then I know it's symmetrical about the axis, right? So then I can go over here. So there's my base graph in black, y equals x squared, right? And then I'm just going to start doing things as it tells me to, right? So I can see here, I'll stick with the color code from the top part. What color we do the reflection? Blue. Okay. So we'll put the reflection in blue, right? The negative out front. So I'm going to reflect all these points in the x-axis. But I can't reflect 0 because 0 is on 0. 1 goes to negative 1, and positive 4 goes to negative 4. Right? So there's y equals negative x squared. Okay. Then I keep a running legend just to keep myself straight, right? And then I go into the inside, and the horizontal movement is going to be in red, right? It's this piece here. It's negative 3 or minus 3 there, so I'm going to move it to the right because it has to be opposite, which means I'm just going to take each of these points and move them right 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, and then I've got one more to do. That's y equals negative x minus 3 squared. Okay. The last one I have to do is just move them all up 2 units. 1, 2. Right? So the green graph is going to be your final answer, right? Which should match if you were to match it in or graph it in Desmos. Right? You should get that. Right? Yeah, no.
How much less do you want us to write the final graph and the y equals x squared?
No, this is just me stepping you through it, really. Like, I think the more of these you do, you could start combining these 2 answers here. Right? I think we're almost at the stage now where I can count 2, or what did I move? 3 right and 2 up. Right? Yeah, that's fine. You don't need to show all 4, right? You could even, if it's easy enough and like you think you can do it, I just do it this way because then I can give you marks for it, right? If you show me that you've reflected the graph, there's kind of like a mark, right? It's kind of the safe way of doing it, right? Like there's only, that might be
just to be messed up.
If if you mess up, and then I can't do anything for you, right? But look, if your graph ended up over here or something, right? And you have a hard time, like, and that's all you drew, you might have a hard time, like, giving you anything, right? Right? But this one's maybe easy enough that I could keep track of the points, right? So I could go left or right if you want to do this 4 times. Reflect, move right 3, up 2. right? If you wanted to do them all individually, right? Okay. So I'll do the last one again. Like, you're always going to get a point here, or a mark for drawing this base graph, right? Because there's some work involved in memorizing those points a little bit, right? It's y equals x squared, and then I'm going to like color it to yellow. So the yellow is the vertical stretch, right? And basically what I'm doing is I'm counting the distance from the x-axis, right? So I'm counting 1 here. So when I have a vertical stretch of 2, instead of 1 now, it has to go to 2, right? So I'm going to draw it there, there, and instead of going to 4, it's going to go to 8. Right. Okay, that's it, vertically stretched, and we talked about pulling on the top of the graph and how it made it skinnier, right? So it's a vertical stretch. And then I'm going to combine the next two. I'll do them in, like, I don't know what color, or we'll do it in the magenta, okay? So I'm going to combine this with that, okay? I'm going to do them in one step. So I'm going to move the graph to the left 1, because it's opposite, right? Left 1 and down 3, each of the points. Left 1, down 3, right? Left 1, down 3. 1, 2, 3. And then it's symmetrical, so I know that one is going to go there. And then I do the same thing here. Left 1, down 3 to 5. Left 1, down 3 to 5. Right? So there's your base graph. There's your final graph. So that's me combining transformations there. Okay. It's very systematic. The more of them you do, it's the same thing as completing the square, right? The more of these things you do, more of them you watch, it's like you just start infusing the fact that A is the vertical stretch of compression, and then I can reflect them, and then I move them left and right. You just start, there's only 4 things there, right? So the more of them you do, the better you get at them. Okay.